Live from Rip City, it's the Urb Thrasher Flower Hour, featuring music, videos, and backstage interviews with the masters of metal, the monsters of rock, and the hellbellies of alt country. Now, throw your horns up and crank it to 11 with your host, Urb Thrasher.
Yeah, get those horns up, everyone. What's going on out there in the world? Urb Thrasher here with Radical Russ.
Hello, welcome to Hour 2.
Hanging out here in Rolla J Studios, Rip City, Portland, Oregon. As I mentioned, we had a great first hour with Is Stone of the Graces. They had a brand new album, Westing, that was released on October 14th, 2014. I'm looking at their Bandcamp page right now, and you can go to it and hear all 12 tunes, and you could purchase it if you want, but you could at least hear that album and go from there for the Graces. Great band, have a very original sound, and I totally recommend you guys going out there and checking them out. All right, this week has been a huge week in Oregon cannabis reform. Went to Salem. We had a thing here in Portland on Thursday. On Tuesday, we had a Portland Normal meeting, all centered around basically us voting yes on Measure 91 back in November, taking us all the way till March. Russ, where are we at now?
Well, we're still in this phase where the legislature is reviewing the law and what they want to change about it, which, if that sounds weird, it is. It's like, but the theory here is that they think that there's things that need to be fixed about it, some things that we didn't properly foresee, I suppose. And among them, they think, is that the cities and counties ought to be able to put a local tax on marijuana. And already like 100 different places have, right? They've already done this, and now they just want to make it legal in retrospect. It's like, hey, well, we already passed it, so let us keep it, our own little special taxes on this, which seems a little unfair, right? Because part of the reason you passed the legalization is you want to have the marijuana priced low enough that it can compete with, well, what you can buy on the street, right? You got to compete with the black market and a medical marijuana market. So any extra tax that you add on that is just going to make it's going to benefit people who are dealing on the side, but two, it's going to increase traffic. Think about, I mean, already you think that's funny, but it's true. In Amsterdam, they have a limit of 500 grams that the coffee shops can hold. The mayor proposed raising that to a kilogram so that there'd be less traffic of couriers. Well, you get the same effect if, like, Portland's got a 10% tax, but there's a city just over there that's got a 5% tax. That'll incentivize people, hey, man, let's get all our money together and send Bob over to buy our ounce, and they'll split it all in eighth and save the tax money or whatever. So let's not add to the traffic and the congestion and all the problems. On the other side, there's good stuff happening. Representative Lou Fredericks has this bill that would apply like retroactive sentencing for anybody who's in jail or corrections for weed, for what would in 2013 we did this re-sentencing thing on marijuana, and I don't want to get too deep into the technicalities of it, but like in criminal justice, they have this grid. It's really like, well, you did this and this crosses with that, and so you're doing 18 months. You did this crime and you did it this many times, and that's 20 months or whatever. It's just a grid. And so this law changed it so, like, you took the whole grid and shifted it down for marijuana. So, like, for example, it used to be, before we legalized and everything, that an ounce, up to an ounce was a ticket, over an ounce was a felony. We're the only state in the union that had that. So this adjusted the levels so that it created this misdemeanor level. And that saved a whole lot of people from doing a whole lot of jail time and not being able to expunge their crimes. But there was this like technicality in it where it only applied to people who were busted after that, after 2013. Well, what about the people who got busted in a year before? They got this Class A felony that can't be expunged, and they got 20 years, when now that would be a lower rung where they could get it expunged to get time off and all that. So this is a bill to address all that and kind of just go back in time and say, look, now that we've legalized and now that everybody's kind of laid back on this, we're gonna relax a little on you guys that are in jail and hopefully set a whole bunch more people free.
Went to a meeting on Wednesday at the state capitol. It was a olcc implementation hearing. What did you come away with from this meeting, and why was it called?
Well, this was the statewide tour that the olcc had been engaged in. That's the Oregon Liquor Control Commission. And yes, that's right, liquor control is in charge of our marijuana law. The regulation part, not the law part, but there's a proposal to call them Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission. Still call them olcc.
Which people clapped at in that room.
Yeah, and that saves some letterhead. You don't have to change a whole bunch of stuff. The initials still work. But the meeting was, they had 11 meetings across the state where people would go to the meeting. And the thing I appreciated about it, this is kind of Oregon-y. I don't know if other states do things like this, but you had the feeling of like Occupy Wall Street when they had all their twinkle fingers, if you agree, and all these crowd things. Well, they did a similar thing where everybody got colored strips of paper, a red, a yellow, and a green.
Rasta colored.
That did not go unnoticed. And red if you disagreed, green if you agreed, yellow if you're like, I don't know, right? And they'd ask a series of questions like, should there be a limit on the size of commercial grows? Like by canopy space, by number of plants, hold up your thing. Some people hold up green, some people hold up red. And then they'd ask to one of the representatives of each color to discuss what they thought about that. So I thought that was a really interesting and effective way to solicit input in an organized fashion without it turning into too much of a shouting match. Although it did at one point, and I got the video of that on the show today, but whenever we talk about medical, everybody gets very, very heightened on what's going on. And so, unfortunately, olcc doesn't have a lot of control on that side of it. They don't control the medical marijuana side. So, everybody got frustrated at them is kind of like, well, that's nice, but they can't do anything. You need to be talking to legislators and Oregon Health Authority, but I understood how they're frustrated. So I don't know. I thought it went really well. They've already made recommendations, led some people to question why are they doing listening in Portland after these recommendations. And the other two things I would note from it was, of the 4 commissioners, it's 5 commissioners, one was absent. Of the 4 of them that were there, 3 of them admitted to having not voted for the initiative.
Gleefully admitted
They hadn't voted for it, but they would uphold the law and whatever the voters passed. Okay.
Well, I want to stop you right there, because that's one thing, and I tweeted about that, and that was one of the things that I kept hearing in my head. Because, well, first of all, what it tells me is they don't understand me. These are people who don't know me, and they don't know my industry. That's just for one, okay? But the thing is like, they stood up there, and it's almost like they wanted us to know, and I can't figure out why they wanted us to know. But all 3 of them, after they said it, gives the old, but, and it's like, no. I feel like we got like 5 dudes running something that don't understand us. I mean,
yeah.
I hate to be, in a way. There was 3 black people standing up there. There was 2 black brothers up there, 2 dudes. And I wanted to say, dude, as much as I want to say I get, your where you come from and your neighborhood and how you grew up, I can't. I don't get that. I don't understand that. And I feel like they should be giving us the same respect for this community, and we're not getting it by not at least having one person or something. Do you come away with that?
Yeah, and there's a I can't remember where I saw this, if it was in a bill or just a proposal of that in the future, as the commission would be renamed Oregon Liquor Cannabis Commission, that it would have at least one representative from the cannabis industry, because there's precedent for that. On the Liquor Control Board as it is, the one guy who wasn't there, the white-haired white dude, he's got a liquor license, and they made a point of talking about how they're by law, regulation, rule, whatever, at least one of the 5 commissioners on the OLCC has to have an active liquor license so that there's some industry input. So the thought is they
there you
rename and retool this commission. You got to have at least one cannabis person on there too.
That's great.
Now, that would be interesting, because this one commission would have one alcohol and one cannabis person on it, deciding things having to do with both alcohol and cannabis, and 3 other people, and get to know where the other 3
But that would make sense to me. That would at least give us some kind of
well, let me give folks an idea of why Urb's got more of this feeling going on too, because the chair, Rob Patridge, his day job is a Klamath County district attorney. So he's put people away for weed, for a living for a long time, and comes from a county that's very conservative on weed, very anti-weed. Then you got Michael Harper, who is a former Portland Trailblazer, very tall fella, and he's now in insurance. And pro athletes, I think they get that whole having to be spokespeople, and they get the whole just say no anti-drug thing, especially the years he was playing.
That's true. That's a great point.
So I think that's what would have been
the NBA, dude. His teammates on Portland. Are you kidding me?
The Blazers.
Are you kidding me?
Bill Walton. I got a great Bill Walton video we got to watch later too.
I mean, so
And then the lady, I don't know much about her background. I think she's real estate, and then
her background is kids.
Kids. Oh, she's the kids person.
That's right.
Ah, there we go. And then the other guy is also in insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the one liquor guy who wasn't there. So that's your commission that's deciding how these regulations work.
And who did decide. And on Wednesday, that's what we were talking about. We went to Salem. They presented what they decided to the representatives and senators. And I thought it was fair. A
lot of this is just like regulatory things. Like, if we're going to conduct minor sting operations, it's important that the OLCC has the peace officer authority.
Yeah, there was that. But one thing I did walk away from that meeting was that Tom Burns, is he driving the car? I almost think he is, because I can't tell you how many times Partridge would go. He would look at Tom Burns, or Tom Burns would get up and go up
Oregon Health
to
Authority,
him.
by the way.
Or what I noticed too is a lot of the representatives and senators up there, they wanted to see Tom Burns going, or they were almost looking over Patridge in a way to get that acceptance from Tom Burns.
And for context on that, Tom Burns, head of the Oregon Health Authority, they're the ones that had to implement the 2013 law that had the retail dispensaries opening. Mm-hmm. So I think they've got experience dealing with Tom and the idea of marijuana going out the door.
I think there is something to that. So there's a lot of players. And another great thing that I will say, and this is positive for me, is I really do believe Oregon, everyone except the police and the sheriffs, are really past this reefer madness thing, Russ. I mean, these are legitimate conversations.
Oh, yeah.
People are really trying to implement a system here. We're so beyond that reefer madness crap that it's like, I mean, every now and then
well, in the campaign we had it with the doctor who said there's been 5 children.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
that was as close to reefer madness as we got the whole campaign.
But anyways, what's going on right now is we really are building a system here, and it's gonna happen here soon. All right, really good stuff. I know we spent a lot of time on Oregon right there. What else is going on in the world?
So we've got, I think, is a hell of a story going on in Ohio, where they might be voting on legalization this November.
Get out of here.
Not 2016, 2015. Ohio. Like, all right, let's get in our magical, mystical time machine, Herb. You and I will, let's say Hempfest 2010, and we're hanging out backstage, and we're taking bets on which state would legalize first, California or Ohio. It might be Ohio.
Dude, that's like Butler against Kansas, you know what I mean? Like, it's
This is
just
some crazy stuff. But Responsible Ohio, they cleared their first hurdle. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. They cleared their first hurdle which is their petition summary language was deemed okay by the Attorney General. That just means this paragraph you wrote that says what that big long bill does is okay. That's just a real technical, like, okay, you're not fooling anyone, you're not fraudulent, you're accurately describing it, you're not leaving anything out. It got past that hurdle, which is significant because it had gotten booted out in the previous round, and other people trying to legalize in Ohio have had the same problem getting past this hurdle. So he's made that past that level. And this Attorney General in Ohio is very anti-weed. Now it still has to go before a ballot board, then it has to go before the Secretary of State's office, and then they have to go get over 300,000 signatures, which is really like 500,000 that you have to get to make sure you really have enough. And they have to get them from at least half of Ohio's 88 counties, right? You can't just all get them in Cleveland and Toledo and all the big cities. You got to go out to the rural spots too. And they got to do all this by July 1st.
My goodness.
So this is a lot of stuff still. Let's not get the cart before the horse. On the other hand, the horse is a Clydesdale because the Responsible Ohio's got $20 million bankrolled. They've got a ton of money bankrolled. I think they needed 20 million, but they've got these 10 investors, and this is the controversial part. They've got a group of these 10 investors who are bankrolling this constitutional amendment from Responsible Ohio, and in return, those 10 investors get written into the Constitution as the only 10 people that can commercially grow.
My goodness.
So it's kind of like 10 rich guys buying the state of Ohio to be able to have exclusive grow rights. Now, there's all sorts of ways that sucks. On the other hand, Ohio could be legal in 2015. You could have pot shops in freaking Cleveland. You could have pot shops in Cincinnati. It doesn't stop anybody from having a pot shop. Doesn't stop anybody from buying these growers' weed and processing it, making cookies and edibles. There'll be a ton of business for everyone else, just not growers.
Wow.
And it also is going to allow like 6-plant home grows and possession of an ounce or whatever the typical details are. So there will be home grow in it. So just not commercial grow for anybody but these 10 constitutional monopoly oligopolists.
Is any one of those 10 by the name of LeBron James?
No, but Oscar Robertson, the Big O.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oscar Robertson, the Big O.
See, that's what I'm talking about. The NBAers, those NBAers, freaking...
And Frosty Rucker from the Browns. He used to play...
I don't know Frosty Rucker.
Yeah, I don't know Frosty Rucker. The Big O, Oscar Robertson. Hell,
but if he knew Jim Brown now, you know.
Maybe. So there's those two guys. There's a couple of real estate guys, a couple of investment banker guys. It's weird.
Robertson.
It's a weird situation because there's these other groups in Ohio. Friends of ours, Tanya Davis, right?
Yeah.
So other groups in Ohio that are proposing, more open legalization. They don't have any money. They don't have enough mojo to get it going. And it's like California where you've got so many groups that are competing. You worry that they undercut each other. And if they could all if they really want to fight this big juggernaut of Responsible Ohio, they have to get together because they're too small. Even if they're together, they might be too small to stop this thing. But a lot of people, like my friends in the chat room during my show from Ohio, are saying that, well, if this thing passes in 2015, that doesn't stop anybody from also running something to get passed in 2016. Yeah, okay, but I think once a legalization passes, it's going to be hard to get people to pass another one a year later.
Yeah. Well, Ohio, keep working, keep fighting, and keep talking. Keep doing what you're doing. We're definitely pulling for you. Anything else before we move on?
Yeah, at the federal level, this is remarkable, man. I mean, you think about how long
I know where you're going with this, and this is
how long we've been doing this, and even just in 2009. Barack Obama was openly laughing at us. The little joke about marijuana legalization cure the economy. Oh, well, I don't know what that means about the online community.
Yeah.
Right? You remember that?
Yeah.
Well, senators Rand Paul, Cory Booker, and Kirsten Gillibrand submitted to the Senate the Compassionate Access, Research Expansion, and Respect States Act, the CARERS Act, because all the bills got to have a cool acronym, right? So the CARERS Act. This is basically states' rights to medical marijuana. If your state's passed a medical marijuana law, the feds will leave you alone. And it would allow the VA doctors to recommend medical marijuana in those states
Very cool.
to their patients, and would move marijuana down from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. So you got Rand Paul, a Republican, who late today, was joined by another Republican. I forget his name, but he's a Republican senator out of Nevada who has supported this now. So you got 2 Republican senators, 2 Democratic senators supporting states' rights to medical marijuana in the Senate that's controlled by Republicans. And now my head just exploded.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. If you guys put that into perspective, I mean, that really is crazy. And one of those guys, if you think about it, is possibly running for president.
Yeah. And Cory Booker is often talked about as well, not in the Hillary run, but 2020 or
he will. Yeah, I definitely
be.
see him setting himself up right now.
Yeah.
He's setting himself up.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Anyways, that is great news. The main thing is it's on a federal level, and for states like Oregon right now, where it's in a lot of ways that was mentioned in these meetings, that how the federal level is, how we're going to go around, and how does the federals come in, maybe what if you get caught with a bag and you're on federal parkland, you know what I mean? Then you're on federal law. The Oregon officers and everyone's just going to hold their hands up and say, tough shit, dude, you're on federal land. There's nothing we can do, man. And so a lot of things going on right now, and that is great news on a national level. All right, anything else before we get to new tune?
Well, Washington, D.C., they passed their legalization, but their legalization doesn't have any pot shops because the way it goes in D.C., the way their laws are, they can only pass stuff that's like statutes. They can't pass stuff that's tax. And this would be, if you do a tax and regulate, obviously that has taxes in it. Taxes have to go through their regular legislative process. So as they were getting ready to do that, it's like, okay, we'll legalize first, and then we'll set up the regulations for pot shops second. Congress stepped in, because they can, and said, no, you can't spend any money regulating marijuana. Now, that didn't stop them from legalizing it, so you can still grow your 6 plants or 12 per household, have 2 ounces of marijuana, and give it to one another for no pay, right? But there's nowhere to buy it, nowhere to sell it. Nobody can sell it. So they're barred from spending any money from regulating that, but now they think they may have found a loophole in that they may appropriate emergency funds because, and here's the emergency, if you've legalized marijuana but given people no place to buy it, the only place they can get it is from criminals, and that puts the public in risk of danger.
Wow, be damn.
So we can spend emergency money to deal with this emergency to get at least marijuana regulated so we can set up shops. Now that'll piss off the Republicans in the House that tried to have barred this so far. Andy Harris in Maryland and a few others that are still rabidly anti-pot. But it looks like increasingly our side is just playing chicken with these guys and winning. It's wonderful.
That is amazing. A lot of stuff happening. We're going to keep pushing forward, and we'll keep you updated right here on 420radio.org. Last night I went to see my friend Dez and the band Cold Chamber, and we'll come back and tell you all about that. Turn it up, folks. The roof is on fire.